Baron Corbin, we actually briefly played football together for the Cardinals. So he was actually somebody that I knew from football. And that was kind of a funny one because we were just randomly catching up on the phone one day. And I still remember the conversation. It was like, bro, you're never going to guess what I'm up to right now. You know, I just signed with the WWE. And then the other was like, no way, me too. It's like, what the hell, really?
And we are back for another casual conversation with the classic guys. I'm here with none other than Dean. You guys might know him as Mojo Rawley. Muhtadi, how are you doing today?
I'm good, brother. It's good to be back with you, my friend. It's been a bit.
It's been a minute. This is like gonna be the definition of a casual conversation because I feel like we talk and there's no like, you know, that awkwardness of talking to someone for the first time, you know.
We're well past that, my friend.
Yeah. Lots to talk about, though. We got tons to talk about. First things first, I want to do this at the beginning because if people are listening here at the beginning, this is where they're going to hear it. Let's talk about the upcoming event you guys got going on, the Crowning Glory. A bunch of big names there. You got Raj Desi, aka Jinder Mahal, Mandy Rose, Jerry the King Lawler, Moose, Tenille Dashwood, formerly known as Emma, like just a bunch of names there. And it's a wrestling combine. So I'm going to need you to explain that to me, but tell me a little bit about Crowning Glory.
Brother, this is one we've been trying to bring home for a little bit here, and we are extremely excited about it. So, I mean, first off, we're going to have 8 matches. It's going to be a stacked card. You guys are all familiar with the names on the card, so we're going to have some a lot of really good matches, a lot of fun with that. But the combine part of it is in addition to the show, you know, so we're reaching NFL Week 1. It's a big kickoff to the season, right? So, you know, I had this idea and I wanted to find out, you know, like, hey, which wrestler is on a shoot the strongest, who's the fastest, who's the most in shape. Let's take the NFL Combine and make a pro wrestling version of it, you know, and let's make this a little bit more sports specific. So, I mean, the NFL Combine, if you've seen it, it's the 40-yard dash, it's the bench press, it's a bunch of like football-related drills. In the wrestling world, who cares about that, right? So we're going to change up the event. So instead of, you know, the 40-yard dash, who can run the ropes the fastest, you know? So we'll have a stopwatch and we'll clock everybody and see who can hit the ropes the hardest. We're going to have some arm wrestling because why not? People love watching arm wrestling. I think it's something that everybody can relate to. We have a really cool tug of war type event that we're going to be doing. People are going to find out about that one, but that is going to be absolutely intense with a wrestling twist to it. And then the event that I'm most excited about, and this takes me back to my days in football a little bit with one-on-one drills between the offensive and defensive lines, but we're going to do a shoot, collar, and elbow tie-up. So collar and elbow tie-up, everybody looks at it as a test of strength. It's not, right? Because you have to worry about your opponent taking the arm, shooting the leg, go behind, roll up, 1, 2, 3, it's over. We're scrapping all of that, pulling that out, making it illegal. It's a one-on-one shoot, collar, and elbow. There's only one direction to go, and that's forward. So whoever can drive the other person to their ropes, they win. So we're going to do a whole tournament-style thing. We got 4 of the biggest and baddest women and men to make up the 2 divisions. And like I said, brother, we're shooting. This is a 100% shoot. We're getting after it. And the athletes are training their asses off for this. They're hyped up.
The videos have been really entertaining. I've seen a couple of their videos promoting it, getting hyped up for it. You know, you got Jordan Grace, you got the former Xia Li there. It's a stacked thing. Is this a one-day thing?
This is going to be a one-day thing, so we're going to.
What happens first, the combine and then the matches, or
we're going to have it mixed in?
Oh, okay.
we're going to do it all in one event. Nobody's got to change the channel. Hey, the best part about it is it's free to watch. Go to Chris Van Vliet's YouTube at 7:45 p.m. Eastern, and you can watch for free, literally at the click of a button. If you're in Chicago, tickets are only $10 down from the usual $30. So thanks to our partners at DraftKings who are sponsoring this entire thing. They're making this extremely cheap and easy for people to watch. And if you're home, again, it's free. They're footing the bill. So thank you, DraftKings.
Wednesday, September 4th, guys, at 6:45 Central Time. Guys, check it out. It'll be live on Chris Van Vliet's YouTube channel. I'm sure you guys are already subscribed to Chris Van Vliet, one of the best interviewers in the game. And it's going to be stacked. That sounds like a lot of fun. Who came up with the idea? Why did you guys want to do a combine? Was that mainly you and your NFL background?
Yeah, man. I mean, this is something that I wanted to do. I was really aiming to do this last year, but we ran out of time and things were just too crazy. So we got it done this year. Back at the WWE Performance Center when I was there, Sean Hayes was the strength coach, and he used to test everybody, that was something that we really hadn't been doing in wrestling, but he would go and he would test everybody's numbers, and he would come up with these like crazy intense drills and see who could, max out or rep out the highest. And then he started getting a little bit more sports specific, right? Because he was a strength coach in the NFL before he came to WWE. So Sean put together an incredible model. And, I wanted to take that and make it a little bit more wrestling-esque, right? Like I didn't want any weight room stuff in it. I just wanted to get people in a ring and do things that mostly they might do within a wrestling match. So added in a couple of extra fun items in there to the mix, a couple little secrets and surprises we'll be doing day of. But that was kind of the premise. But again, it was something that people hadn't done before, and we had to be really selective with the talent that we were bringing in. All of them, very, very legitimate professional sports backgrounds prior to their time in WWE, TNA, AEW, wherever they were. So, I mean, the roster was everything, and we got the right people for the job.
No, 100%. And I don't know if you remember. Do you remember like the first incarnation of NXT was with the pros and the rookies, and
yeah,
do all these competitions and stuff? Like that's what I'm visualizing in my head, but a little less wacky. I don't know. Are you gonna have anyone carrying around barrels or anything like that, or?
No barrel carries. We thought about it, but no, that one didn't. We had like a list of like 20 events.
Yeah.
And then we had to cut it down to 4. So we actually just swapped one out like 2 days ago. I remembered an old drill we used to do, and it gave me an idea for something else. So that'll be our tug of war edition, our take on it. So we have a wrestling theme for it. So I think everybody will enjoy it. I got to leave at least something as a surprise.
Yeah, and I like how you said that it's like more wrestling theme and based off of like things that professional wrestlers do. Because like even recently in NXT, they did like a performance center combine that was filmed for like segments on the show where most of it was like weightlifting and rope climbing and more of the athletic part and the gym part, where this wrestling situation seems a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun. So looking forward.
Riddick Moss is in it, and he was in the PC combine when they did their version in NXT, and he absolutely annihilated everybody. Like it wasn't close. He might have even won every single individual event. I can't say that for sure. I mean, not to take anything away from anybody else, but Riddy Mo was crushing it at his time there. So we rounded out the roster in a pretty good way to challenge him with some new events. And then I might even be more excited about the women's division personally, because Mandy Sachs, Dana Brooke, Xia Li, and Jordan Grace as those 4. I mean, that is just that's I'm
also intrigued to see what Parker brings to the table, Parker Bordeaux, because like as much as we've seen him, we've never got to see a lot of him. It was like he came and left so many times so quickly. He might be the dark horse in this one.
He is actually the one I'm most intrigued by for sure, because I believe, except Jordan Grace, I've worked out many times with the other 6. And I'm familiar enough with Jordan Grace and everything that she's capable of. I've seen tons of her training videos. I mean, for Paragon Talent Group, we've done a ton of work with Jordan. Brands absolutely love her. She's one of our most requested talent by a mile out of a roster that's over 350 talent. So that goes to show you. But Parker, man, I mean, he's a big ass dude. I mean, he's strong as hell, former lineman in college. I mean, all that hype is around him for a reason. And, you know, for me, he gets it. You know, this is somebody that I had reached out to cold. I'd never spoken with him before, you know, booking him for this event, and you know, just getting a chat with him. I was like, oh man, I like this guy's energy. He's hyped up, he's fired up, he wants to work hard, he's always asking for more. What else can I be doing? And I was like, man, I can't wait to see what this guy's going to do, not only at the combine, but I think he's got a really bright future ahead, man. He just wants it.
100%. He's always been around, but I feel like we haven't got to see like the best of him yet, and he's really the dark horse in this because, like I said, we know a little bit about Riddick Moss, we know about Moose, we know about Jinder, we know about Jake Hager. Obviously, Jake Hager's got that MMA background and everything too. Like, we know about these guys, but Parker, we've only seen a little bit. So I'm curious to see. Like, even on social media, we don't see a lot of him working out. Like, you see Jinder is always putting up those gym videos and stuff. Like, we don't see that from Parker. So it's intriguing to me as well. You brought it up, so we're going to talk about it really quickly, though. Paragon Talent Group. What is it and how did it start?
Yeah, man. Well, Paragon Talent Group is, I believe, the first ever management company for pro wrestlers. That is a company that I really wanted to start back when I was with WWE. You know, coming from the NFL, you got, you know, the union, you got agents, you got managers. Everybody not only has one representative, but a team of representatives and access to so many more, whatever you need through the players union. And then you get to pro wrestling and there's literally nothing there. There's no one watching out for you. There's a few agents out there, but they're very few and far between, you know, and I just knew that there was this space, and just being on the talent side for 10 years over at WWE. I knew how badly everybody needed someone. So, you know, I have my business background, got my MBA from Maryland. I worked, you know, at Morgan Stanley for I don't know how many years, since I was in middle school, actually. So literally the second I got out of WWE, immediately started this company. It had to have happened. And I called one of my best friends in the world, Steve Kaye, and I told him about this idea. And I was like, dude, I want you to start this company with me. I didn't even really have to ask him. I mean, 10 seconds into the conversation, he's like, hell yeah, I'm in, let's do it. And we started this thing. And now 3.5 years later, I mean, we've done paid deals for over 350 wrestlers. We're doing sponsorships. We're working with a lot of the wrestling promotions themselves for sponsorships. We're kind of doing it all: autograph signings, indie bookings, endorsement deals, visas for the international talent, whatever we can possibly do to help everybody out. We're entertaining it, and the team's just growing leaps and bounds. So it's been really cool to see, you know, the company explode the way it has. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you know, the talent are just so capable. They have so much to offer the outside world, and they just don't know about it. I mean, once we get past the part of educating the brands on what they've been missing, once we get a deal done, I mean, it almost always leads to an annual deal after that, recurring business, because our conversions kill it. The content is better than anyone else they're talking to, and the engagements are awesome.
And we've talked about it before, you know, you and I, how like it was something that was needed in this industry, because I think from my experience, and definitely yours, you were one of the wrestlers where I feel like they don't understand what their reach really is. Like, they have this big following, they're on TV, but they don't see themselves as celebrities, as say other celebrities are having that ability that other influencers take advantage of when they really do. And you guys came in and were like, no, like there's, you know, let's capitalize on that. Let's make you some money. Let's work with some brands. And I think that's something that's hard for them to do too, considering for a lot of them, they're on the road so much. They're focused on dieting and training and getting the cities on the right time and all of that type of stuff, that you guys are kind of taking a weight off their shoulders and helping them out.
I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, that's why you need representation if you're going to be doing all this stuff. And that's what's been missing in wrestling. I mean, the more people you have working for you, I mean, obviously needless to say, but it's the less that you have to do yourself, so you can focus on your training and getting to the next city and not stressing out about all this stuff. I mean, I think one thing that we've been able to give so many of our clients is just the peace of mind. Like, you can take the stress out of it. I think there's a lot of wrestlers out there that they do their best work when they don't need wrestling, when they have their bills covered. If they get fired, they're going to be fine. They already have outside income. And for a lot of our talent, it's more income than they're making in the ring, So when you can go out there and you can just do what you want, what you feel, and just dedicate yourself to doing the best job you can, really goes a long way. Because I know that sounds kind of obvious. It's not, because most of the time you're going out there and you're like, hey, let me not screw up. Like, shoot, what did this coach tell me to do at this one particular moment? And you're not reacting. You're not living in the moment. You're just trying to think and recall and do what somebody else told you to do. And, ask anybody, that's done well in this business. There comes a point where you have to block everybody out and just do what you think. And, this kind of thing helps out with that.
100%. You're on the road, you get a few days home. It does bring peace of mind knowing that you have this like management helping you with other deals outside of your world of wrestling and all that stress. Someone you brought up, so I just want to bring it up, is Steve Kaye for a second. He wrestled.
Ooh, no,
wrestled. I want to talk about that for a second. He was in a battle royal. How did that come about? And how was your reaction to all of that?
Well, Steve Kaye? No, yeah. Steve's my guy. He's probably going to get pissed that I booed him. Steve always tells me, will you say something nice about me, please, once? Because I'm always burying him. It's mostly just on our calls because I talk to him 82,000 times a day and I'm always ribbing him and stuff. You can never sell it. If you sell it, everyone's just going to pile on you. But I met Steve Kaye, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. He was the talent buyer at the Hard Rock in Las Vegas, actually. So when we were going out there to Vegas to have our crazy party trips and have our fun, Steve was actually the guy working there. We used to joke. We'd always do these like crazy and wild things, and we'd try to get Steve fired from his job because he gets so stressed out about things. But we'd come in, we'd do all these antics, they'd end up in the papers or, on TMZ, ironically enough. And then Steve would like get promotions and raises for, bringing in all this extra attention to the spot. So Steve was awesome, man. He became family really quickly. He took unbelievable care of everybody at the Hard Rock, not just like myself and my group, but by the end, he was hooking up the wrestlers, the coaches, producers, like everybody with rooms, with bottles, with whatever when they came into Vegas. And then, he left there, got his MBA and started doing some other, business jobs kind of similar to what he's doing now. And it just made a lot of sense to bring him in. So Steve is half of the company. We do very different things internally, but, yin to the yang kind of thing. We operate completely differently than one another. I mean, we are literal polar opposites. Imagine me coming into our business meetings dressed like this, with executives from companies, and Steve's got his polo or a suit on, but that's good. We need that. We need to show these brands that, you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with people that know how to entertain. So that's what this is. But Steve, you need the guy in the suit that's adding some professional legitimacy, if you will, to the operation. You don't just have some jacked up dude in, a sleeveless shirt. So together, the yin yang, it works. It's a 1-2 punch, and it's gone amazing for the company.
Who convinced him to get in the ring, though? Was that like a dream for him to do that, or was that just like a thing?
No, I was ribbing him. Oh. Dude, I told Steve, I was like, because Steve and I bought half of Black Label Pro out of Chicago, which is, the promotion that we're going to do our event with. And I was messing with Steve, and I just told him, because I don't even remember half the crap I tell Steve when I'm ribbing him, because it's just in one ear, out the other. But I told Steve, I was like, dude, if you're going to buy a wrestling promotion, like, you have to wrestle a match. And I was like, dead serious. I was like, I'm not kidding. Like, he thought I was kidding. I was like, I'm not kidding. Like, you have to. It's a badge of honor. It's a coming of age. Like, if you're going to tell wrestlers what to do, you better get your ass in the ring and actually do it yourself, just like every other major wrestling promoter has in the past. And I said this to him, and I really like kind of scared him with it. Like, I was like, dude, and don't you dare embarrass us. If you embarrass us, there's no coming back from this. People aren't going to want to take your calls. They'll never look at you the same ever. If you oversell it, if you whine, if you complain, if you bitch and moan, this is a deal breaker. And I really like twisted the knife in him. And 10 minutes later, I forgot I even told him this. So a month of this went by, and I had no idea, but he was doing two-a-days every single day, training his ass off. He was getting inside of a wrestling ring and asking the coaches and the other wrestlers, like, please don't tell Mojo that I'm training for this or whatever. I want to just surprise him day of. And I mean, he put in the work. I'm telling you, he put in the work. Of course, I didn't know it at the time, but we show up to the event. He's doing Hurricane Ranas and all this other stuff. I was like, what the hell? I was like pissed off because I was like waiting for him to like do a terrible job so I could make fun of him forever. But he did great. I did bonus a couple of people that just chopped the living mess out of him just as much as we could. And they like him, so they took it a little bit easier on him than I wanted to. But he did awesome, man. And he, again, he put in the time. I think it meant a lot, if anything for himself, just to know that he could do it. But yeah, bro, you know how it is. If you're going to be attached to this business, you better take a bump, take some chops, do something.
The first time I remember I went to one of the training places where the wrestlers were getting trained at the beginning here on the independent level to do an interview with a couple of the wrestlers. And, like El Phantasmo, who is in New Japan now, and a couple of other ones, Artemis, Spencer, Nicole Matthews, were in the ring doing an interview. And the moment I got there, it went from El Phantasmo being like, because they were still training kids, like, hey, like, you're going to be the referee for this drill. Next thing I'm getting stomped in the corner, thrown around, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, oh, so this is it. They're like, yeah, we had to rough you up. We had to.
Yeah, I think Criss Van Vliet went over to flatbacks and they chopped the meat off of his chest. I mean, that was a lot. I don't know how many chops he had taken before that, but I mean, what a trooper. And that's
for sure.
That's the business. That's one thing about the culture of pro wrestling that I absolutely love. Everybody should get in there. I mean, wrestling is a beautiful thing. It's for everybody. You can do it when you're 15 years old. You can do it when you're 85 years old, So there's something for everybody in this business.
I remember that Criss one specifically because he wore a Wrestling Classic shirt for those interviews, and then he took it off and was getting chopped. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, you can't have a shirt on. That's cheating.
So shout out to Criss, though. And shout out to Steve. He just got engaged. Congratulations. Dope guy. A couple of more Paragon questions. First things first, right now, if there's anyone listening to this, watching this, I might even clip this for the page. A little name dropping. Who do you guys have if brands want to work with them? Off the top of your head, give me like 10 people, 5 people. I don't know.
Ooh, that's putting me on the spot, brother. I can't just pick a top 5 or a top 10 because that's how this is going to be.
Someone's gonna hit you up and be like, you didn't mention me. I'm not in this video.
Here's what I tell brands. It's not like football. It's not like basketball. You don't have somebody who's only done one thing their entire lives. Everybody else has different hobbies. They come from different backgrounds. They have different associations. Even if you've only wrestled your entire life, you absolutely have outside hobbies. You absolutely were doing other things on the side before this. You might not even be from the USA. You might be, from Asia. You might be from the UK, Central or South America. Like, there's a lot of ties. So, I mean, plus then you have everybody who has their own internationally identifiable gimmick and persona, so they have who they are as a real person, who the wrestling fans know, and they have who they are in the ring, who is also somebody that wrestling fans know. So every wrestler just checks so many boxes. So, I mean, again, in 3.5 years and talking to brands every single day, I am yet to find a campaign that I could not produce a short list of talent for. Not just one, but like a short list.
So if they want to find a short list, they can go to the website, right? And if they want specifically, they can hit you guys up and they can find out. That all being said, I agree with you because in the world of social media too, I think everyone, regardless, and I think the companies push it. I know for a fact that WWE pushes. I think AEW kind of pushes. Everyone's kind of in this day and age pushing a little bit of a personal brand to grow their own social media, which means you're seeing a lot more of their other interests and things they like outside of professional wrestling, whether that's video games, whether that's working out, whether it's hiking, biking, boating, whatever, cooking, whatever hobbies they have. You're seeing a lot more of it now because of social media, and that allows you to connect them with so many more specific, unique brands, because that's what I think there is something there. So if you guys do want to see the talent roster that Paragon Talent Group has, check out their website. I'll put it in the information below. And then also, if you really, really want to work with them, hit them up. Hit them up with an email. 2 more things about Paragon, then we're going to talk about wrestling really quickly. You guys are doing this Crowning Glory event, which is super cool. But there's a couple other things you guys did, and I'm curious. For the first one, it's something you did, and I want to hear about it. And the second one is you did it, and I want to know if you guys are going to do it again. So the first one, the Triple V event, I thought that was super cool. Tell us who Triple V is and what that event was about.
Yeah, man. Funny you bring it up because we are legitimately working on the next Dream Mania right now. So that was, I don't know, man. That might be up there for one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. Triple V, his real name is Vincent. He lives here in Orlando. A young man with Down syndrome who is the nicest, friendliest person you've ever met in your life. And I do a bunch of events with the Down Syndrome Foundation, and I had known him for years, and I knew he was a big wrestling fan. And every time you see Vince, he's just, man, he's so excited and happy to just chat with you, hang out with you. I mean, if you are a wrestler, he knows literally everything about you. I swear to you, I'm not exaggerating. I sat down with him one day, and somebody thought it was funny. So we had a 1-versus-1 Mojo Rawley trivia, 10 questions to see who would get the most right, and he won.
Oh, wow.
I swear, like he won. He got all 10. I think I got like 8. I actually got 2 of the questions about my own career wrong, which is pretty funny. But we learned a little bit about his story, and I won't go into it too much here, but I mean, it's one of the most heartbreaking things that you've ever heard in your entire life. What happened to his sister, it infuriates you, but it's it's hard not to shed a tear when you hear what happened to her. But she's in a bad spot, physically, and it was something done to her that was pretty horrible. But Vincent was in a position where he had to work to provide for his family. This was something newer that happened to his sister. They needed to make the house wheelchair accessible. They needed to find a way to pay the bills, and Vincent was working full time to do just that. And somebody asked him a question once why he liked pro wrestling so much, and he said, "I want to learn how to pro wrestle so I can defend my sister, so something like this never happens to my family again." And man, it breaks your heart, and you hear that story, and it's impossible not to rally around somebody like that. And we came up with this event. A good friend of mine named John Chiarando, he's actually the owner of the coconut water company that maybe you've seen us talk about, Once Upon a Coconut,
Yeah.
Quality One Wireless, BC Rich Guitars. He has a whole portfolio of companies that he owns. But I mean, this is a dude that, I mean, he gives more to charity than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. It's unbelievable what he does. So we all kind of put our heads together, and we came up with this event, and we decided to call it Dream Mania, where we were going to raise all this money for Vincent's family, for the Down Syndrome Foundation. We were going to bring in a bunch of wrestlers, and we were going to do a wrestling show. We were going to bring in a bunch of musical acts. So Flo Rida was the headliner, and actually he performed Vincent's personal entrance. Tommy Vext was there. He performed. Tommy Davidson. We had a list of people that came in, and just everybody wanted to help. On the wrestling side, Braun Strowman came and opened the show for us, kicked it off. EC3 was there. Sean Spears, Tyler Breeze, Weston Blake was there. Steve Macklin, August Artois. We had a bunch. Kalisto came and absolutely killed it with John's son, actually. But man, we had some people that really showed up and came out to support and wrestled and competed. And we had an unbelievable event. I can't remember how much money we raised, but if we didn't hit 7 figures, we were very close to it between everything for Vincent's family and the Down Syndrome Foundation. And it was just unbelievable. We weren't able to pull off another one last year, but we absolutely have something in the books this year to try and pull something off. And I don't want to step on their thunder, so I won't tell you who's leading the charge on this thing this year. But you'll find out soon enough. I don't want to take away from them. I'll let them tell you.
Fair enough. I remember that. It was super cool. I think I actually posted some of it. I remember seeing the videos of Vincent hitting the pedigree and you guys giving him the big signing experience, and he was so happy about that. And then I had the pleasure.
No, dude, we couldn't get him to leave the ring. I mean, I thought when the crowd and the lights, like when he got out there in the element, I was so worried something was going to go wrong. And it wasn't just him. Every match on the show, we had a kid with Down syndrome attached to it, whether they were wrestling, whether they were announcing, like whatever it was. And I was just so scared. That was the scariest part of the whole thing was what if somebody gets hurt? Like what if one of these kids get injured, someone doesn't see them, runs them over, they fall off the side of the ring into the crowd. Like, what a disaster. But Vince got out there. Oh, my goodness. He just stole the show. Then he grabbed the mic afterwards and he cut a promo, and we could not pull the mic back. Anytime someone came to get it from him, he would take it right back. I think Wesley and Steve and August Artois, I think they fed probably like 6 finishers each from Vincent alone. August actually ate a shoot pedigree from Vincent. I was worried he'd break his face.
Dude, I remember seeing it all. And then I had the pleasure of meeting Vincent. I think it was in LA WrestleMania weekend. Danielle Monet Summer introduced me.
Yes, and Danielle Monet is Vincent's girlfriend. So.
Yeah, so she introduced me to Vincent, and Vincent was like super nice. I met Vincent and his mom, and they were both super cool. And I was like, dude, I saw all your videos. I saw the pedigree. Like I saw it all, and he was super cool. So I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was a super cool thing you guys were involved with. And if you guys were going to do something like that again, that would be super cool. And I think people should know you guys do stuff like that. You know, like you can't give yourself flowers for that. So let me give you flowers for that. But the next thing I want to ask you about what you guys did this year, and then we're going to talk about your wrestling career a bit, was are you guys going to do another tailgate party at WrestleMania? Because I was in Philly. I came to this year's tailgate party. It was a fun experience. You guys had talent there. You guys had promo contests. There was beers. There was food. There was fun. Is that a thing you guys are thinking about doing continuously?
Absolutely, brother. So that was something that Paragon partnered with Jimmy's Seafood out of Baltimore with. So,
shout out to those guys. They're great. But yeah.
Bro, best seafood ever, bro. Jimmy's Seafood. Oh, my gosh. If y'all haven't had it, definitely do yourselves a favor.
And they love wrestling.
Dude, yeah, there's a reason they're shipping Roman Reigns stuff on the regular, bro. All the wrestlers know that's the spot. But that was a really cool one because I played my college football at Maryland, and that was the hometown spot. So Jimmy's isn't just like a restaurant; it's a venue, it's a party spot. You go do it all. You go grocery shopping at Jimmy's. Yeah. They have everything, and the team there, John at the top. I mean, those guys are incredible. They're family. So anytime we can partner up with them, and we have many times. It's something special. So that was something we partnered up with Jimmy's on. We absolutely plan on doing another one at Mania next year just because this one was so successful, bro. People absolutely loved it. I think, honestly, the only knock was that we couldn't have as much Jimmy's seafood food there because, some of these venues, they won't let you bring in all your food you want to because then you're not buying their stuff. So next year, we got to figure that one out. This year's venue shut that down a little bit, but we had so much fun. We had all the promo contests, dance contests, people singing, all the meet and greets, Q&As. The wrestlers that showed up, they were there to party. They just wanted to hang out with everybody. We had musical performances, Steph DeLander and Top Dollar, or AJ Francis, I should say now, who was a college teammate of mine at Maryland.
Which is great. I didn't know that. That's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a senior when AJ came in. He was a freshman.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I'm not surprised AJ is a mic worker now because I don't know if I have ever seen a freshman come in and talk more trash, but as much as we buried him for it his freshman year, dude turned out to have a 6-year career in the NFL and started and did some amazing things. So you kind of can't knock a guy if he talks trash, but he actually backs it up. But, AJ's fun, bro. I love that guy to death. He's another one that we've done a ton of work with for Paragon. brands love him. The content that he puts together is his freestyling ability. Like, brands see dollar signs when they can take somebody like that with a background like his and attach him to their brand. It just makes a lot of sense. So that's me putting AJ over after I had to bury him for talking trash as a freshman at Maryland.
Yeah, but for sure, guys, next year, WrestleMania, Las Vegas, look out for Paragon.
And Las Vegas is our city, mind you. I don't know how much time I spent partying there, and Steve worked there forever. Yeah. So
he knows the city too. He's connected.
We know Vegas, bro. We know Vegas better than most people know Vegas. So we'll be able to really hype up something super special for that. I promise you on that one.
I don't think I can outdrink you anymore, but one time we had a DM conversation about outdrinking each other. I don't know what was going on. I think it was after WrestleMania in New Orleans in 2018. I think I saw you at Wally Mania. I was like, oh, something about having a drink competition. You're like, we'll do it next time. We never did it, but I don't drink that much anymore. Maybe in Vegas, we'll see.
Well, I'm a lot more Dean these days than Mojo. I'm not out in the field partying like I used to.
Same here. That's the problem.
I might have to step my
game. It might be even. It might be pretty even. Maybe we'll both be dying like 3 shots.
You never lose, though, bro. I'm saying right now, like certain things, especially when it comes to partying, you're good. You might not have it 100% like you used to, but you don't lose all of it.
It comes to you after a minute. You know, you're like, wait a minute, I can still do it. You might feel a little bit more the next few days, but
well, just make sure you go ham for Super Bowl. That'll be your warm-up for WrestleMania because they're conveniently after one another.
That is true. That's true. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your boy, the Wrestling Classic here, guys. I want to let you guys know that there's a limited edition Wrestling Classic tee. I'm wearing it right now, but I got to show you the back because it's in collaboration with none other than HQ Clothing, guys. It says Conquered in the back because that's what we do. We're out here conquering it every day, guys. Wear this shirt. Remember to conquer it. Do the thing. Keep doing the thing. HQ Clothing, Headquarters Clothing, limited edition Wrestling Classic shirts. There's only like 70 left. There's only 100 printed. Make sure you get them before they're gone. I truly, truly, truly appreciate your support. Conquer it. Get it now. Put the link in the description below. Let's talk about wrestling now. Did you grow up a wrestling fan, and who were your favorites growing up?
Yeah, man. I actually did grow up a wrestling fan. It was the first thing I ever wanted to do. This is going to come as a shocker to literally no one. But my absolute favorite when I was a kid was Ultimate Warrior. Like, that was my guy. I mean, the face paint, the tassels, I mean, how big and jacked up he was one thing for me. But just that energy, man.
He was hyped.
That energy, yes, that was the original Stay Hyped. So, yeah. I mean, that's who I stole so much from, you know, my wrestling career with. You know, Warrior just went out there and he had the energy. And, I mean, he spared no expense when he was making an entrance, that's for sure. And trust me, I know from my old entrances, you better have your cardio in check. Otherwise, you're going to have nothing left for the match afterwards. But I just like the way he worked, man. Like, you know, for me, even dating back to my football career, I was never a technician. You're not going to see me out there doing all these sweet counters and reversals and sequences and these high spots and stuff like that. I mean, I can appreciate them when other people do them, but that wasn't my game. Energy and power and passion, like that's what I was about. And, you know, I still feel that I had a lot left to give in a wrestling world, but, you know, COVID struck me down and put an end to my career, but that's kind of how it goes in pro sports and entertainment, right? It doesn't always end when you want it to be. So you got to leave it all out there when you got it.
I feel like you do everything in your life to lead to where you are now. And I think you being a part of the wrestling world is like, you help with what you're doing now with the wrestling talent and other people as well, right? I think that's so fascinating though, because I always said, like, being a child wrestling fan, like being young and watching wrestling, when you have the perspective of just like whoever hypes you up and whoever gets you excited, like that's the best route. Like, you didn't care about what they did in their ring or what moves they could do or how good their match was. You just, whoever you were the most excited to see, that's who you latched onto. And that's why characters storylines are a big deal because, you know.
And it's a really good point too, because I feel like when you are a wrestling fan as a kid, you know, it just goes such a long way for you later on. So one thing that I used to try to remember to do, I mean, obviously everyone's minds are so crazy all the time with the life of, you know, being in the WWE. But I used to try to think back to what I liked as a kid, you know, like what stood out to me then, like what was appealing, because it's certainly not, you know, usually what is appealing to you as a teenager or as an adult later on, you know. And you try to remember certain things, because it's easy when you're wrestling to only listen to what the Twitter crowd is saying about you, right? Like, they're the most vocal crowd, like, understandably so. They're the ones whose metrics are actually able to be tracked. You know, if you're complimenting, if you're complaining, you know, WWE, AEW, all these places have their team of analysts that compile all of those things, and that's what they use to determine how the show is written and so on and so forth. But those fans only represent a piece of the total pie, right? And the kids, who are the ones who usually are bringing in the most money for the company through their families, and, you know, they're a majority of part of the demo here. I mean, they're not on Twitter and posting anything. So how are you able to really track their metrics and their data and know what they're thinking? You kind of can't. So all you're seeing is what this one demo is saying on social, and it's very easy to just try to appeal to those people. But, you know, when you're running a company, you got to have people that appeal to every demo and every age group. You got to have wrestlers that appeal to certain things and certain markets. So, you know, the indie crowd wasn't exactly going to be one that I thought was going to be my go-to, but families I thought would, you know. And there's a market for Mojo, and there's others that don't care for him. And, you know, sometimes you can't try to make everybody feel a win. You got to be, you know, picky and choosy. And again, that's why you have a well-rounded roster, because not everybody is going to be unanimously loved and received by all, you know.
You do need a well-rounded roster. I mean, like, another example really quickly is, like, I still have conversations today where, like, now everyone has an opinion on what Goldberg is because of, you know, what's been said on social media and recent match and stuff. And everyone's like, but, like, weren't you a fan as a kid? I'm like, yeah, but I was a kid. And it was just the idea of him coming out there and sparing the crap out of people and the walking out of the. I'm like, that's what mattered to me. I didn't care about how good he was as a wrestler. I just wanted to. Now I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess, yeah, okay. But as a kid, it was the hype. I was there for the hype.
Yeah, man. Dude, Goldberg is awesome.
Yeah, he was it. Like, he was the, when I was like 8 years old, like, I was the man. Like,
Goldberg was my favorite wrestler at a point too, you know, like Ultimate Warrior was my guy, but you know, at certain phases of your career, you know, your life from middle school, high school on, like, you gravitate towards, you know, who's doing it at that time. And at that time for me, it was Goldberg, you know, and it was somebody I could relate to as a former football player, you know, like someone whose energy and intensity I thought was a match for mine. And, you know, I still maintain to this day that I think Goldberg probably gave me the best advice that anybody's ever given me in pro wrestling. After I won the André at Mania, he pulled me aside, and, you know, we had a one-on-one chat, man to man, for I don't know how long. It felt like an hour to me. It might have only been 5 minutes. Who knows? But I mean, he told me everything that I needed to hear, that I had, like, shut away in my head. And I'm forever grateful for that. Every time I see him, it's always, you know, awesome to see him. It's been awesome to see what he's done after wrestling, and also what his son has been up to playing ball. That's been really cool too. So, yeah, man. I mean, that's what I liked. I liked that stuff. I didn't need a 5-star match. I couldn't appreciate a 5-star match when I was younger. I could probably barely appreciate it now. You know, like that's what I gravitate to. That's my cup of coffee.
What is one thing Goldberg said to you that really stuck to you of all the stuff he said to you?
You know, for me, it was a matter of, I think for so much of my career, I was trying to mask who I was, and I was trying to be who they wanted me to be and do what I was told. And I never really went out there and did what I thought was right, or what I thought could win the crowd, or what I thought would be a really cool moment. It was always like, all right, what do I think they will like? Whether that was the fans or whether that was the office. And, you know, he pulled me aside and he told me about the gifts that he thought that I had that no one else had, the abilities that I had that that he thought I had that no one else had. And he's like, you really got to start betting on yourself, believing in yourself, being yourself, go out there and be the person that you were when you're running around the gridiron and playing football. Be the guy that you were, prior to coming to wrestling, because I was a very different person. There was always that mojo in me, but I kind of channeled it in a different way. And, I don't know if that just felt like the safer way at the time, but that was a talk I very, very much needed to hear. And then from there, it's, it's on you to do it, because, you got to find the right way to do it. You can't just go out there and do what you think is right. You'll be fired in 2 seconds if it's not part of the plan. You can't really go off the script, and you have a lot of constraints, especially, for someone like myself that was always supposed to be this one thing. You're the energy guy. We don't need to give you the mic. We don't need to put you in a storyline. We don't need to put a title on you. You are the energy guy. You go out there, you get everybody hyped up, you do your thing, you have a match, and you get the hell out of there, and you're on to the next kind of a thing. And after a while, it really does start to mess with your head when you get pigeonholed like that, and you just think you're capable of more, and you're working that hard. Sure as hell wasn't sleeping when I was having my time over there, and I was always training and always doing something productive, and I put in some serious hours that I think just about everybody else, most others, were not putting in. So, that was a conversation. I really appreciated it. I don't know if he thought that I needed to hear it, or if he was just talking to me as a man, but it was my favorite for sure.
That's awesome. What was the biggest shock to you transitioning from football to wrestling? Like what was like when you realized wrestling was more real than you thought it was, maybe, like, compared to football? What was the biggest thing that was hard for you in that transition?
Nothing physically.
Yeah.
Football, making it to the NFL, even if you're there for 2 seconds, like, you are the best in the world, and it's the most competitive sport in the country. So it's hard to be there. So if you make it, you physically have what you need to make it in pro wrestling. Now, I'm not saying you can go up there on the top rope and do all these things some of the guys are doing, but at least for going out there and wrestling as a monster, you have what you need. So physically, like running the ropes, I picked that up literally the first time I did that. That was nothing. It was the mental component. I guess I wasn't expecting it to be as difficult as it was. I'm used to different coaches in football telling you some different things and having to adjust the way you do things. But in wrestling, you just never knew whose voice was supposed to ring the loudest. Even if it was sometimes Vince telling you what to do, if, maybe when you're in front of Vince, you do one thing, but if all the matches Vince isn't there, you're doing what Vince says, and it's contrary to what the other guy was telling you, then you're not going to get a TV match in front of Vince. It's that simple. So, really, it's just like that mental side of figuring out timing and the psychology, because I had a lot of, any athlete does, but there was a lot of bad habits to break. You don't sell in sports. You don't show anybody that you're injured or you're in pain. You don't telegraph your moves so the people in the top seats on the ceiling of the venue, so they can see what you're doing ahead of time and process it before it happens. So if they don't, if they blink, they don't miss the entire spot. Like, all of these things, they take a little bit to adjust to switch up, and really just take who you are and deliver it through the WWE lens. That takes a lot of time for just about anybody. Some people pick up certain things faster than others, but I remember that being something that was difficult for me, especially in the beginning.
I can definitely see it being a mental game and learning the psychology and to waver through those waters of management and whatnot, and learning how all that works, for sure. Who was in your class when you first started in NXT? Like, who were some of the names now that people might know that you kind of started out with?
Yeah, man. So Enzo Amore was my roommate when we first started, actually. So you can imagine how ridiculous that place was.
Yeah.
Probably like the 2 biggest mouths on the entire roster.
I just imagine it being loud. I don't.
Bro, the volume. We lived in an apartment. There were shared walls. Like, what a disaster that was. But Enzo, unbelievable. a lot of people don't know this, but Enzo almost didn't make it from the start because Enzo rubbed a lot of people the wrong way just because of, who he is, how loud he is, how much he has to say. And, the funny thing is that exact attitude that almost got him fired from the start is exactly why he made it in the end. So some of these guys that come in and they're maybe talking a little bit more than a rookie should, it's kind of hard to doubt them or knock them because it can work. How else are you supposed to let people see who you are and what you're capable of? Enzo went out there and killed it. All it took was John Cena seeing him for 2 seconds and hearing what he can do. And then all of a sudden they put a mic in his hand and he got his first opportunity. And that was that. The rest is history. One of the best mic workers in the history of the company. Someone as well that I feel like has a lot to give and somebody that the sponsors love. Any deal that we've done with Enzo, the brand says it's their favorite ad that they've ever had someone do for them every single time. So there's that. But Enzo was one. Charlotte Flair came in the same week as us. She was somebody that was like a sister to me growing up. I mean, we rode to shows together. One of my very, very best friends. And it's been awesome to see what she's been able to do completely out of her dad's shadow and has made, a name for herself as, one of the best women's professional wrestlers of all time. A lot of people would say number one, So that was cool. That was a hell of a class. Baron Corbin, we actually briefly played football together for the Cardinals. So he was actually somebody that I knew from football. And that was kind of a funny one because we were just randomly catching up on the phone one day. And I still remember the conversation. It was like, bro, you're never going to guess what I'm up to right now. I just signed with the WWE. And then the other was like, no way, me too. It's like, what the hell, really? But we came in and started on the same day as, former football guys. Luchasaurus, actually, I believe was the same week that we were. And then that was our rookie class, if you will.
It's a pretty stacked class.
Yeah, and then like a month later, that's when Sasha Banks came in and the Revival and some of these guys, which again, Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, one of the greatest women's wrestlers ever. A lot of people would say best ever. And then, FTR goes without saying, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Some people would say it's the greatest tag team of all time. So
it's all arguable, a lot of these. I mean, like Charlotte really did break out of her dad's shadow, and that's a really hard thing to do. Like she's the one. Like,
when your dad's freaking Ric Flair.
yeah. And it's like, and Mercedes made a name for herself. FTR has gone and bet on themselves time and time again. Luchasaurus is still kicking it. Enzo's still popping up everywhere, getting people talking about him. Everyone's still grinding. Baron's still doing his thing. He's doing his cooking thing that I really enjoy recently on Instagram, which is cool. So everyone's doing their thing. I think it sucks for people that really didn't get to experience that NXT. I know up here in Canada, it was on TV the entire time. It was on TV on the Score, switching to Sportsnet from the get-go. So we saw your guys' stuff up here before there was a network, before anything. And I was like, it was a development, but it's like you got to see you guys grow and become, like, I still remember your debut. I remember watching that at my old house, tuning in. How'd you come up with the name Mojo?
I actually didn't come up with the name Mojo. Okay. I'd like to say I came up with it, but I can't take that credit. We had a creative assistant at the time who was Dusty Rhodes, like, right-hand man. His name is Rob Naylor. Probably
shout out to Rob Naylor really quickly because he always shares some of the coolest stuff. I don't know how he has it from his vault on Twitter.
Yes.
And I follow him on Twitter, and I'm like, he will be sharing some of the, like, some of your guys' rehearsals, practicing characters. I remember Danielle sent me the thing where they were testing her and the Wyatt family and how that could potentially work. Or they had, like, a bunch of the guys behind Mercedes as her security at the time. They're practicing that, like, the female Shield clips. Like, he just keeps putting these things out there. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. But shout out to Rob Naylor. Go on.
It was awesome. I mean, Naylor, I mean, I wish I would have I'm sorry. I really wish he was doing his thing then when I was wrestling, because I would have stole so much stuff from him that he was posting up. And I don't know where he's getting his hands on some of the most obscure wrestling shows of all time, at least in the year 2024. I don't know how he still has all those NXT promo tapes from like people trying out gimmicks for the first time, but he's got all of it, and his page is total gold. But he's the one that came up to me. I think it was literally my first week with the company. And, you know, I have a big personality, so it didn't take him long to put it together. But he came up to me. He was like, dude, we should call you Mojo. And I was like, absolutely not. That's so stupid. I was like, Mojo? No one will ever take that guy seriously. What a gimmick. Like, I understand we're supposed to have gimmicks here, but that is too gimmicky. And he's like, no, hear me out. He's like, it's easy to chant. No one will ever forget meeting Mojo. I mean, think about it from a marketing and a business standpoint. But most importantly, you are Mojo. Like, that is you. It's the perfect fit. And I was like, bro, you just totally talked me into it. I was like, all right, let's throw Rawley on the end. We got to have a last name here. We can't be Jake Mojo. That's too crazy. We need like at least the last name so it's a little bit more like a real name. And the thought was, oh, we'll go up and we'll do, you know, Monday Night Rawley. Like that's what we're going to do when I get called up. But of course, by the time I got called up, there was Monday night, half the people on the roster, and that never came to fruition.
You brought him up, so I'm actually curious. It was like working with Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty was a dream come true, man. That one hurt when we lost him. I still remember where I was when we got the news, but Dusty like really, really believed in you, and he really had your back and added so much needed levity to the room, to training. Because I mean, back in the day, it's nothing like NXT now. Back when it was the FCW days, and you know, I'm sure 10 years before I was doing my thing, it was probably way worse than it was then. But I mean, we were 6 days a week at one point during the old Summer Slam-a-Rama tour. We were wrestling live events 4 or even 5 days a week on top of practice 5 days a week. So you only had one off day, but with the loops, the coconut loop all over Florida, you might not get home till 3 a.m. But it was tough, man. Practices were really difficult. I always liked that part just because I always trained really hard. My conditioning was always on point. So the harder practice was, it was difficult, but it was a competitive advantage for me because, you know, others would maybe tap out prior. So I didn't mind that part, but it was like just a total head case, man. Everybody was weighing on you in your head, trying to mess with you and test you, but everyone had a different opinion and you were trying to sort out what was right. And here you are. I mean, at least for me and Baron, we were coming from the highest level of pro football, and now we're starting over from scratch, like trying to make it onto the rookie roster, you know, and it was a lot. But Dusty, man, he was the one that was there and like having fun with it and making jokes and was like something to look forward to. Like, I mean, he was building people up. Like he was giving you things called compliments, which we forgot existed at the time. Which, you know, I don't knock that. I think it should be hard when you're in training. I think they should try to run you out of there because the road is hard. You know, you don't want to get up to the main roster after the company's invested all this time and effort, and you've invested all these years into the business for it not to work out then. It should be very difficult in the beginning. They should be trying to get you out of there. So I get it, and I appreciate it. But Dusty just made it livable and tolerable, and he had so many great ideas, and some of the top gimmicks that you're still seeing on WWE today, like he came up with. Like he gave those to people because he saw something very special in them and knew they could make it. They just couldn't figure it out creatively on their own, and they just needed a helping hand, and that was Dusty.
Not even just WWE, even AEW. I think Dusty's feet are everywhere because this talent that he helped in those promo classes in NXT that period of time is everywhere now. And I think that's super cool. And I think I've talked to enough wrestlers on this show and just personally to know that like the industry requires some tough skin and to be ready for some tough love. And for him to be the bright spot there and all of that that's cool. Another person you got to work with down there for a bit that is no longer with us is actually just the anniversary of his passing. Do you have any good Wyndham Rotunda stories, Bray Wyatt stories?
Man, I miss Wyndham every day. He was I mean, he was another one. He was a light in the locker room, man. When road life got really difficult, I mean, he was the one that was having fun and making jokes and making you realize, man, like this isn't that bad. Like, who cares? Even if you go out and have the worst match ever, if the whole locker room gets pissed off at you or something, if the coaches don't believe in you and they think you're a job guy, like Wyndham kept everyone's perspectives in check. And he was a locker room leader. I mean, he was a guy that, you know, everybody listened to. And I mean, even the guys at the tippy top of the roster when, you know, before he even made his way up there, you know, like he was somebody that everyone listened to and believed in. He was so much fun, man. He was somebody that I traveled with for a very long time. I mean, some of the most fun I've ever had on the road was me, Wyndham, and Fandango going town to town. Like we had an absolute blast with it. So many fun pictures and videos I still have saved on my phone. The little like trading card gimmicks that they gave out at his memorial. I mean, that's in my car with me everywhere I go. Like that's right there by the gear shifter. I see it every day. You know, and it's kind of like a callback to those times on the road, but just somebody that was insanely talented, a generational talent. I mean, the best mic worker in the company. I mean, imagine how difficult it was to come up with those promos every single week and have them still be mystical and mythical and all of these things, but still like hitting so hard and making you emote and feel every word that he's saying every single week. And I mean, that character that he created, both of them, nobody else could have done that. There's no doubt in my mind that there isn't anybody else that could have done Wyndham the way that he did Bray Wyatt. I mean, think about with that character, how easily it would have been for that to be stupid or unwatchable. I mean, think about all those other failed gimmicks over the years. I mean, the only one that you can think of that really took off like that was Taker, who obviously was the guy. But think about how dumb a gimmick of being an Undertaker could have been. Like only Taker.
It's hard to be supernatural in a world where you're supposed to believe everything is real. And he was really good at reinventing himself. And it's hard. It's hard to do a gimmick like that following eras of Undertaker and Kane where it worked and everyone's just going to compare you to them. And he found a way to create something that was his own that did work. And when everything was thrown against him to kind of not make it work, he still found ways to make it work. And then he reinvented himself and made a whole new thing work. So just insanely talented.
Yeah, man, he's the best, man. I miss him. He's something special. There will never be another one like him. I mean, I think I tweeted it the other day, but I've always thought that he should have been the one to, you know, break the streak, break Taker's streak. I mean, that would have been perfect for him to be the guy. But either way, regardless, streak or not, I mean, for the career he had, doesn't matter. I mean, we haven't seen a gimmick like that in I don't know how many decades, and we probably never will again.
How about a guy like Luke Harper, Brodie Lee? Because he was there. Yeah. It was such a stacked, like 2011, 12, 13, 14, like pre-network. There was a stacked roster down there on NXT. And like almost a who's who of who's doing what today was there. And it's kind of insane. And Luke Harper was another one of those guys.
It was a total gift that I was able to be there for that, for some of that at least. But yeah, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, the three of them, when I first got to NXT and they first started doing the Wyatt family, I mean, I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I mean, all three of these dudes legit could kick your ass. They're monsters of men. Like they're huge, you know, and then you add Braun Strowman into the mix later, forget about it. But I mean, Harper was unbelievable. And he was just the nicest guy of all time. And another person that really built you up in a locker room. I'll never forget it because Luke Brody, he first went out and started finally getting his own solo run after his entire career as being in a faction, as being a tag guy. And this was his moment. And they really wanted to see what he could do. And we had a match in Rochester, where he's from. So this is his hometown for finally his solo push. this is the moment he's been waiting for literally his entire life, because he's always been a wrestling fan. And I was working him solo and he was up, but it was a matter. He came to me and he was like, all right, man, how can I help you? How can I get you over? And, I really want to build you up here. And I really want people to appreciate what you are and what you're capable of. And I see a lot of promise in you. And, I really look at this as an opportunity for me to be the guy to bring that out of you. And I was just like, it blew my mind. I was just like, this is your Super Bowl. Like, this is your Mania, your hometown, which you don't get to work in. And this is your moment on a solo push, and you're making it all about me, and it shouldn't be whatsoever. And I was just like, that's all you need to know about what kind of guy Brodie was. And then, he goes over to AEW and lives up to everybody's expectations and exceeds it, and, absolutely does his own thing. I mean, you can't find somebody who has a bad thing to say about Brodie. Everybody loved him. And, you see his family now, his wife and his kids, and they're the same way, man. They're so friendly. They just want to build you up. They just want to find ways to help out everybody else, no matter what's going on in their personal lives. And, his kids are going to be stars, man. No doubt in my mind. The whole wrestling world is behind him. And, shout out to the fans too, for giving their family those moments and building up his kids. Everyone didn't have to support and buy in the way that they did. And, you got to love wrestling fans.
You got it. And then, it's unfortunate we lost both of them so young, but they're obviously not forgotten, and they were both so good at what they did that it's crazy to think that they're no longer here. Hey, yo, have you guys heard about 500 Level? They make officially licensed WWE merchandise, and I actually have been working with them on a couple of designs. A design that I worked on recently was with a girl named Caitlin, who's a big Dakota Kai fan, and we designed this new Dakota Kai shirt, which you can get exclusively now at 500 Level. Once again, officially licensed with the WWE. Really wanted a new Dakota Kai shirt. Got this one designed and made, and it's on the website now, on sale now, 500level.com. Guys, join their partnership program. You get discounts the more shirts you buy, 10%, 20%, 30%. You earn points and you get a discount. They have OG shirts, guys. I had to re-up on my NWO shirts on 500 Level, the comfortable material. If you get the premium shirts, but even the non-premium is super comfortable. I got NWO shirts. They got Shawn Michaels shirts. You can find some of your favorite wrestlers on there. You can find none other than guys like Razor Ramon, the bad guy. Check out this shirt. It's a sweet, sweet shirt, everybody. 500level.com. Like I said, they have the NWO stuff. And if you're like a big NXT fan, they got shirts for all of your favorite NXT wrestlers. And if they don't, let me know, and I'll make sure we get some shirts made for your favorite NXT wrestler. I went to go support my girl, Carmen Petrovic. You guys can check out our casual conversation on my YouTube channel. You can check out mine and Carmen Petrovic's casual conversation. But 500 Level had a Carmen Petrovic shirt. I had to go support my fellow Canadian and the homie Carmen Petrovic, guys. 500level.com, guys. Check them out. Get premium, officially licensed WWE shirts that you cannot find on WWE shop all the time. They have a huge selection on their website also for MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL. They got shirts for everything, but their wrestling selection is insane. Custom creative designs. Maybe I can work together with someone out there that is an editor that wants to put more designs on the website. Hit me up. 500level.com. Check them out and keep doing the thing. It made me think about something we talked about, Brodie Lee, because Brodie Lee is one of those guys that also like came into this through the independents, wanted to be a wrestler that way, and you came into it the athletic way. And I've always been curious. I know as time goes on, it's everyone's cooler with each other, but is there ever a little bit of tension, say at the PC, between the guys that come from the athletic world and then the guys that rough it through the independents? Like, there has to be like a little bit of the guys in the independents being like like we've been hitting the road already and stuff. But is that a real thing?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. I mean, that was probably the hardest part of starting out in FCW, was the fact that I came from football and everybody wanted to run us out of there. And I don't blame you. I'll talk about that in a second, but Brodie Lee was never one of those guys.
He wasn't. But you talked about how he was the way he was. So I'm like, he wasn't like that, but was that a thing?
He ribbed people. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. It was hilarious when he did, but he wasn't one of those guys that really like held it against you. He was one of those guys that understood and got it. Like, you need both. You can't have an entire roster of the same people. Like, that's the beauty of the roster, is everybody did something different. And that's why those matchups actually mean something. So it's not just like, all right, here's football guy A versus football guy B, and who gives a crap? Or here's indie guy A versus indie guy B, and who gives a crap? Because everybody's the same. Like, no, it's like, all right, I want to see what this match between this freaking basketball player and what somebody from the indies can do with him. Like, let's see
a
how
really cool perspective, because that's true. Because if you see two indie guys wrestle each other, there have been times, if you're a hardcore wrestling fan, you've probably already seen them wrestle each other on the independents. It's not like a fresh thing necessarily. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought about that. That's true. I never looked at it from that perspective.
Yeah, you want fresh matchups and fresh rivalries, but fresh talent. Every talent can do something very different than somebody else. So it's just a matter of finding the best way to unlock that. But yeah, man, when you come in from outside sports, I mean, the indie guys don't want you to succeed. They wonder why you're there in the first place. And I mean, to an extent, I don't blame them, because in my football career, I was never the highly recruited guy. I was always the walk-on. Like, when I got to Maryland, I transferred in from a small Division III school and walked on. I didn't have a scholarship, so I used to get pissed off when it's like, I'm better than that guy, I'm stronger than that guy, I'm faster than that guy, I have a better grade point average than that guy. That guy is literally better than me at nothing, but he has a scholarship and he has a starting job, and I've been killing myself beating him in everything while paying $50,000 a year for my education. Like, I hate this. So I get that feel. Like, I don't like to see people get things that haven't earned them. So for the indie guys, seeing athletes come in, they're totally warranted to feel that way. But I think everybody needs to appreciate that we all got our contracts for a very special reason, for a very special set of skills or circumstances. And you have to allow people a shot to unlock those. Of course, the indie guys are going to be farther ahead than the athletes that come in. They've been doing it their whole life, But a lot of these athletes that are coming in, they might have 10 times the athletic ability or the charisma that some of those indie guys might have. Not in all cases, but in some. So when that guy actually gets to that level of knowing what he's doing in the ring, he is the better wrestler. It's that simple. And we've seen so many examples, Bray Wyatt being one of them, of people that came from sports. But, I think at the end of the day, as long as you come in and you work hard and you don't ruffle feathers and you do things the right way and people can see that you love this and you're trying, they only can knock you for being an athlete for so long. Like, eventually that is going to wear off and it's just something that you did before. Like, I forget that I ever played football sometimes. Like, I wrestled for 10 years, which was longer, certainly well longer than my NFL career, but I mean, at least collegiately and professionally, it was longer than that as well. So in my mind, I'm a wrestler. Just that was my road to getting in. And I'm grateful for that background, because I could have never done the things that I did in a wrestling ring, athletically, emotionally, physically, whatever it might be, without that background. So I think you have to have everybody, and that's what makes a roster great.
You think there was just a period of where they're just trying to test the athletes that come in, because there's that stigma, maybe they don't know the wrestling history and I do, or like they just want to be on TV. That's what their goal is here. They just want to be a star. They don't really care about wrestling. They want to be on TV. They want to be famous and, maybe catapult to something else off of this. Is it the beginning part more just trying to weed out those people and figure out who those people are? But once you show like you have a passion and drive and actually learn to love this, that you're more accepted?
Sure. I think that's absolutely part of it. And honestly, I think that they should do that to everybody, the indie guys as well, because some indie wrestlers don't want to be WWE or AEW wrestlers. They want to be indie wrestlers, and they want to do things their way, and they don't want to change and acclimate and work as a team. And those guys should be absolutely weeded out as well, because it's got to be looked at as a team sport. Otherwise, you're not really doing the company a service. So I think they should absolutely make it tough on everybody to weed them out from the start. Again, it pays dividends for later and saves you a ton of money and time as a company. And hey, man, like every push that guy gets, it's taking it away from somebody else. If that dude doesn't even want to be here and he's taking it for granted, not trying, unless he's unbelievable at what he does, like maybe get him out of here.
That is fair, because there's a lot of guys that are like a big fish in a smaller sea, and they like that. And the idea of being a smaller fish in a big sea and working with a larger group that they sometimes can't comprehend being that smaller fish. And you don't want that negative energy around there either. But to segue, teamwork, Zack Ryder. How's your relationship with Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona? Tell me a little bit about the team and the Hype Bros, and whose idea was that?
Zack Ryder is the biggest tool / douche I've ever met in my entire life. I'd say that's probably pretty accurate, actually. He's up there for being a tool. I used to tell him that when we were teaming together. But I'm not going to let that take away from anything else that he's done, because, I mean, he's got it figured out, and what he's been able to do on the independent scenes is something that a lot of people are aspiring to. You want to go the Zack Ryder or the Matt Cardona route, better off, because, as he says, Zack Ryder is very dead right now.
Yeah.
Neither of us wanted to be in that tag team. I certainly didn't want to be in a tag team at any point during my career. I always wanted to do my own thing and control my own destiny and things to that extent. But Hunter had the idea to put us together, and he did. And while neither of us wanted to be in it, we absolutely did everything we possibly could to make it succeed. And there wasn't a ton of opportunity for the Hype Bros, but there was a spot on the card. And at the end of the day, you got to take that and do the most you can with it. Wrestling can be a difficult beast sometimes, because even if you go out there and win the crowd, win the internet, sell merch, they still don't have to push you if they don't want to. It's not like football. You go out there and you make 4 sacks in the Super Bowl. If you entered the game as a guy that was on IR or, like practice squad, doesn't matter. You're the guy now. You just did it, and that's it. Doesn't really work like that in pro wrestling. So it's tough to work against the pencil sometimes. But, Broski and I did everything we possibly could to make that tag team the best we could. And then when it separated, we were both very pleased to move on to next steps in our career. And I was certainly grateful for my solo run after the fact. I think that was when I had the most fun in my career, actually. He'd probably say the same, whether that was before or after the tag run. But yeah, man, I mean, he's been doing it on the indies, bro. He's nonstop. He's been hustling, which is a grind that, I totally can appreciate and respect. And we didn't agree on much, at least from a character standpoint to a ring standpoint. We were total opposites. Honestly, we probably should have been doing a better job of highlighting that in wrestling. I think that would have been way more entertaining.
Yeah.
But I think it's just two guys that have been able to find success in this business in just totally different ways, and turn themselves into an entire business. And I think that's pretty cool. A tag team that started as nothing and went nowhere fast.
But people remember it.
Broke apart later, and each person became something really cool. I feel like my contributions to the pro wrestling business through Paragon has been far bigger, have far surpassed anything I could have possibly done in the ring. I truly believe that. And Zack's career is certainly better outside of WWE than it ever was inside WWE. So, I mean, how about that, man? Pretty cool.
To that point, though, like, it is crazy how, like, at least for sure in that last regime, that was the longest regime of WWE, that sometimes getting yourself over was a detriment, like, outside of the company. Yeah. It almost is like you got yourself outside the company, but you're not in their plans. What are you doing? And Zack Ryder is a perfect example of that. And it's just weird how it was like that. Maybe things have changed now. We're yet to see. We're still in the early stages.
We didn't make it. We got to kill you off, bro. We didn't do this. No chance you're getting over without us.
Yeah, but we'll see what goes on. A couple more questions and we'll wrap this up. How cool was it to have that moment in the André the Giant Battle Royal with Gronk at WrestleMania to win that? Like, that has to be one of your highlights of your career, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got to win at my first Mania. I almost feel like a spoiled brat saying that, but hey, everybody's got their share of moments, and that was one of mine. I mean, that was absolutely the highlight of my career. I mean, the André is such a cool concept after the GOAT, so like having that match at WrestleMania in front of a live crowd, that that's where that match belongs, in my opinion. I mean, I know that's been moved to SmackDown, and it's, you know, a little bit of a throwaway now, at least compared to what it used to be. Shouldn't be, but it is. I mean, that was awesome, man. And that was like, the build was something that I really appreciated too, because I was getting my singles run. I was having my moment, and I was having some really cool wins against some really talented wrestlers. And I want to say I won like 3 battle royals that year, and I was trying to make that my thing at the time. Hey, let me be the battle royal guy. But you know, they were really building me towards winning that night, and I was the first to declare for the battle royal that year. And you know, everything was looking like it was going to be headed in the right direction. And then they finally let me in on the fact that, you know, it was going to be my night. And I was just so appreciative and grateful for it. But I wanted to, you know, how can we make this the best possible thing that we can, right? I mean, it's not like the André was getting tons of TV time and mic work and, you know, prep and vignettes and all this cool stuff. So when you have those opportunities, you got to find the way to maximize it, make it the best you can. So I was doing everything I could with my training videos, with my social content, trying to think outside the box as much as I could. And that was one of the ideas was, you know, Gronk's in his off season. He loves wrestling. He certainly loved coming to my matches. I mean, he was one of the guys going to the FCW shows when there was literally 7 people in the building. One of them is the best tight end in the history of football, which is kind of funny.
Which I was just imagining, man, like there's like 7 people there, but there was Gronk.
I remember EC3 coming through the curtain the first time he came to a show. EC3 comes back from his match. He's like, what the hell? Rob Gronkowski's out there. Why? You know, kind of a thing. We didn't realize we were buddies at the time. But yeah, I talked to Rob about it, and he was like, hell yeah, I'm in. I want to do something. So I pitched it, and we added it in. You know, you got to remove your ego from this business sometimes. And, you know, I was fully aware that some people would have some opinions about that. Whatever, it's going to maximize the moment. It's going to get the most eyes on this thing. We actually moved the match from the regular card to the pre-show because the pre-show was, I believe, live on cable, whereas the main card was on pay-per-view. So the amount of people that were watching the pre-show was literal multiples of who was watching on the pay-per-view. So I was like, hell yeah, that's a way better spot. You know, let's get eyeballs on this thing. I think it was the most viewed segment overall of the entire show, obviously getting that like ESPN and Sports Illustrated boost for Rob being a part of it. But yeah, it was awesome, man. I mean, it just added to the whole thing. I was grateful that I was able to do just about the entire match, and he only came in at the end, so I was able to have my time and do my thing without, you know, my buddy coming in until that last part. But it was, you know, it was really cool, man. I was thankful for him for doing it. He had a blast with it, and turned out to be an even better moment because of it.
100%. 2 things that take from that is it's crazy now that we know that you and Baron Corbin kind of started at the same time, and you guys are both former Andre the Giant Battle Royal winners. And 2, that if you were gonna final sell WrestleMania on the pre-show anyways, having Gronk show up is one way to say, hey, you should probably buy this pay-per-view. You don't know what's gonna happen.
That's a good point too.
There was a point they had some vignettes. You were changing characters. What was that leading to? What was this character? What was this non-hype Mojo?
Are you talking about the Bluemarker thing?
What was going on?
I don't know. I would have loved to have known what was happening
with this whole new character, and we never saw it. Like, it just didn't happen.
Well, I know the premise or the background of why it happened, at least. I went to Vince and I had this idea of, you know, and I don't know if it was supposed to be a character, but at least it was something to do on TV at the time. And I think this is something that's important for newer talent on the main roster, or up and coming talent. You got to think about things from their perspective, right? So if you're not even on TV at the time, or you haven't been the guy and you're trying to climb up the ranks, you can't go and you can't pitch them, oh, well, I want to win the title. oh, I want to go into a storyline with Randy Orton or something like that. It's like, no,
you can't walk into the office and be like, hey, I think I should win the Royal Rumble and main event WrestleMania.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, go ahead and say that and get laughed out the building and never be able to submit a pitch again.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like trying to think of ways. All right, what can I pitch them that if I only have 30 seconds on the show once a week, that is something that they'll bite on, that they'll add in? How can I just get a little bit on the show and then I can maximize it from there? So I had this idea of talking to somebody off camera and like just berating them and really going after this person, and essentially like a motivational speech, but as tough love as you could possibly be. And every week it's like, who the hell is he talking to? And then you finally realize, I've been talking to myself. I got myself in check now. Character change. My head's screwed on right. Let's get to work, kind of a thing. And then here's a new mojo for a new run. I don't know how it got to this point, but when I pitched it to them, they loved it. And they're like, I think we can do something here. Because I was like, this is relatable. Everybody talks to themselves in a mirror. They hype themselves up. Like, everyone will feel this. And I think, because I gave all the pregame speeches when I played football. I was like, I know how to give a hype speech. If there's one thing I know how to do, it's certainly that. So I got this, but it merged into this blue face paint kind of a thing with the shattered glass and it getting a lot darker than I wanted it to be, but we didn't know where the hell it was going. It was literally week to week. So I was it's hard to write a script when you don't know where you're going with it. And it went nowhere, man. I think Apollo Crews and I did an international tour together, and I think they called our match like the surprise of the tour, the most, underrated or whatever, because we went out there and it was just two guys that were really trying to make a name for themselves. And we went out there and we left it out there, man. And we had some awesome matches, and people really liked them for two guys who were ice cold and weren't on TV, to go out there and get reactions like that. So they gave us this gift of having this debut match together for the blue face paint thing, which was literally a 60-second or less squash match that they literally put together move for move for us. And then that was it. And then that was the end of the blue face paint. And it was gone quicker than it even started. And
that's what it felt like. It came and it was gone. But I was like, where were we going? Was there a plan?
If there was ever a plan, I didn't know about it. And that's tough, man. I mean, that's the life. I mean, I'll always maintain, like, hey, no matter what you're given, you got to find a way to make something work and have something come out of it. And I mean, at least at the end of the day, it was so short-lived and so unusual and so bad that people still remember it. So, hey, there's somewhere to go with it later, potentially.
For sure. Speaking about something that was so memorable, but also kind of bad at the same time, that 24/7 title behind you, I see it.
Oh, yeah.
You won that multiple times at least.
7 times, buddy. I don't care what anybody says. I had so much fun with that title. I mean, I think it was the first time. I believe the first time I ever won it was in Times Square in New York City on the Fox New Year's Eve broadcast for who knows how many viewers. Maria Menounos was the ref. R-Truth and Elias were in the segment. And I got to do it live in Times Square on New Year's Eve to do this segment, win this title for the first time. I mean, that was one of the best nights of my life. We had so much fun. I had like 5 members of my friends and family that flew in for it. Truth, Elias, like the whole team. We had like we had the best day afterwards. It's the best New Year's I've ever had by a mile. Yeah. So that was fun. Then we went into that whole thing with Truth and Riddick Moss in the Funko store, which was something that I never got to do those opportunities. Again, I was hype guy, running, get everyone hyped up and get the hell out of there. Like we got to have a little bit of fun with this thing. I was grateful for it. And I pitched Vince on this idea to win the 24/7 title and try to, transform it into like more of the hardcore title. Like, let me get gritty. Let me be edgy. Let me be the first person to not run and hide with the 24/7 title. Let me stand and fight. And then you got Truth on the other hand. That was the most entertaining segments that some of them that WWE's ever had. And it was this thing week in week. All right, we're going hardcore. Mojo's got the title. All right, we're having fun with it again. Who's got it? And they were really into that. And we were going to run with that. And we actually had some cool WrestleMania plans for it. But again, we scrapped them because Rob Gronkowski had just retired from football and he wanted to come in and actually do a match with us. So we came up with this whole really cool storyline about us doing a tag match against, I think it was going to be Miz and John Morrison at SummerSlam in Boston where he was playing football. And then we would win and I would turn on him afterwards. And then, we would have our big one-on-one blow-off match in Saudi Arabia on one of those shows, like a no DQ match with the storyline kind of being I kicked the crap out of him in his hometown where he's from in front of his family, and he's going to take it back to the Middle East where my family's from and do the same kind of a thing. And we had like this really cool plan, but then Tom Brady went to the Bucks and made a call, and Rob had a $10 million a year contract sitting on the table to go win another Super Bowl with him there. So we scrapped the 24/7 plans that I was so stoked about. To do this, and then it immediately ended like as soon as we started, but it was too late to go back. So I was like, "Damn it!" That's whatever. That's wrestling.
What are you doing now? Like, what is Mojo doing outside of Paragon? What else is going on? I think what I'm kind of asking is, how did the whole TMZ deal happen?
It's the most fun part of my day every single day. Our team at TMZ Sports is unbelievable. My co-host, Michael Babcock, that guy, he's grown to be a real life friend, and he's someone I almost never see because they're out in LA. I zoom in from wherever I am, but one of the friendliest, kindest people you ever meet. All the celebrities that TMZ talk to, they all love Babcock. He's notorious for having the most beautiful hair a man has ever had in his entire life. I keep telling Babcock at some point we got to get inside of a wrestling ring and you got to do something, kind of like we made Steve Kaye do that spot at the BLP show. I got to get Babcock in eventually, but that's been fun, man, to talk sports lifestyle. So we're not just talking about like the X's and O's and who's the third greatest running back in the NFL in week 15 like that. I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that hardcore of a football fan to give two craps about that, but it's, more talking about legacy and lifestyle and what people are up to outside of the ring and that branding perspective, that Paragon's all about. So, and talking about the news, man, it's a lot of fun, and we do a really good job with the show. Mostly the team. I just zoom in and do my thing, and they're the magic over there on their side. But that job started because I used to do like a guest spot on their show 3-4 times a year. And the second I got out of WWE, I had a voicemail on my phone from Harvey Levin. And I guess what had happened was I did the first show and they kind of liked my energy and my style. So they kept having me on after that, just, to check in. And I don't know, well before I got offered the job, apparently Harvey told the sports team, like, as soon as that guy's a free agent, offer him the job. And that's what happened. It was my first interview out of WWE. It was the, first job I took. Maybe after Paragon, but yeah, man, Scott, it's the rest has been history. I've been doing it every single day for over 3 years now. Absolutely love the job. I have benefits for the first time in my entire life, from playing football and wrestling. So I'm an employee somewhere, which is different for me, but I love it. I get health insurance and things like that. It's a first for me, so I'm a happy man.
And also, like, you still mix a little wrestling in there. Sometimes you guys have some guests
all the time
with the wrestling.
I'm glad you said that too, because that's been really cool. That's actually been like a secret perk of the job, is being able to bring my friends on, pro wrestlers from not just WWE, AEW, TNA, MLW, like New Japan, everywhere, BLP. And interview people and give them a platform on a mega audience, because TMZ's audience is the size of the pro wrestling audience. It's massive, and it's a completely different demo. So it's an unbelievable platform to shine up the talent, what they're doing in and out of the ring. And I've been grateful for that as well, because it's done a lot of good for a lot of people.
I usually to wrap up with this, but I'm gonna ask you one last question after I ask you this, because we went long. I knew this was gonna happen. I'm like, if we already know,
man, I apologize.
Yeah, and we were talking. I'm like, every time I have someone on here that I actually already have like a repertoire with, we just end up talking for way longer. I always know when the episodes are over now, I'm like, oh, this is because it's someone I already talked to. They're comfortable. They're comfortable already, because the people you've done interviews. If someone's not comfortable, they'll come on and they'll be like, their answers are very short. And like they get to their point and they stop. But when I get someone that's like free, not working for a company, but I also kind of know them, they come on and they're like, all right, let's talk. So always happens. Do you feel like you made your younger self proud? If you look back at your life so far, what you've done in the NFL, what you've done in WWE, what you're doing now with Paragon and TMZ, if you would have talked to like 15-year-old Mojo, 15-year-old Dean, would he be like, because you weren't Mojo back then, but Dean, would he be like, would he be proud of himself?
Absolutely. I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish in my life. I'm more proud of the effort that realized that potential. Because, I mean, if you ask me, my football career, my wrestling career, anything I've ever done, I've never reached the level or even scratched the surface of where I wanted to be. At the end of the day, I would have loved to have, played on some Sundays in the NFL and win a Super Bowl ring and some of those things. Those were dreams I had when I had a kid. I didn't accomplish any of that. But in hindsight, I am the most proud of the fact that I was never recruited, that nobody wanted me, and that I earned my contract in Green Bay on a tryout basis when they brought in 25 to 30 football players trying to make it for a weekend of practice with the team, and I was only one of 3 people that they called. That, to me, means more than if I would have been the first pick of the draft. I mean, I would have appreciated having tens of millions of dollars that I don't have now. That would have been sweet, but that story is not a better story to me. My wrestling career, I would have loved to have had the big boy title, and not just like the 24/7 title or, the André or something like that. I would have loved to have had real storylines where I could have gotten the mic and showed people what I can do. I mean, the only promos I ever really got to cut were on my cell phone, and I did those myself on social media because, I was the hype guy. I didn't need the mic. You got them on your entrance. You don't need a microphone, kind of a thing. I would have loved to accomplish so much more, but I had some really cool moments. I had so much fun. The most fun 10-year stretch of my entire life was when I was wrestling. I love the fact that everything I got, I earned. I had to take, and nobody built me up to be this person. I wasn't getting free pushes and titles that I hadn't earned, or things like that. So it wasn't the story I thought I wanted, but it ended up being exactly what I needed. And then now, being able to apply my business background and being a voice for the wrestlers and a defender of them, and, expanding the business in so many ways, through our company, me and Steve, that again is so much value added that I couldn't possibly have thought was a likelihood beforehand. I didn't think it would have meant as much to me as it did. I mean, I would have taken Paragon all day over any title run. Like, those things are short-lived. I mean, just because you had the title at one point, that doesn't make your life. And now, I've been able to essentially turn a job into a career, a long-lasting career. So, man, I'm very happy with it. I mean, I'm happy with the direction of it. I'll never be happy with where I am. Every day I kill myself trying to, become better and do more. And I never go to bed at night thinking I did everything I possibly could have. And, there's always just so much more. But I think that mindset is what makes you a winner at the end of the day. Even if you have a long series of L's in your career, at the end of the day, if it averages out to a win, as mathematically incorrect as that may sound, if your journey takes you to the right spot, then that's what life's about, man. That's the dream.
No, 100%. If you can go backwards and celebrate those small victories, and also like there's something a little bit more fulfilling being able to do what you've done and take that to help other people than just to sit on it and not be able to pay it forward from all the cool things you got doing. I think your journey through wrestling, leading to seeing a problem that needed to be solved and creating Paragon to help other people, like that's cool. But that wouldn't have happened if you didn't have that journey in wrestling. And the wrestling journey might have never happened if you didn't play football. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, it all falls into this sort of order. And maybe something, maybe something else comes in the future and it's like, oh, that wouldn't have happened if I didn't start this talent management company, like that's a whole situation.
We're wrapping a series of wild turns that I never could have possibly had seen coming. If you would have told me when I was a kid I was going to make it to the NFL, I mean, I couldn't have possibly fathomed that was actually a reality. And then WWE, my first dream. What? And then now I'm doing this and TMZ. It's like, what the hell? What is life?
It's cool to have a plan, but it's okay if it doesn't work out sometimes because some cool things happen in the journey and because of it. Last question, or we'll wrap up with this. I want a good one. I want one you've never told before. Just give me like one really cool road story that you're allowed to tell, because I know there's many you can't.
Yeah, back in the old Mojo days, I don't know how many we can put out, especially because they involve so many.
The world has changed, society has changed, but like, just give me one really cool road story. It could be, maybe it's including an OG that some people might pop for. Maybe it's just something funny. Maybe it's a rib, but give me something about the wild times of Mojo Rawley in the WWE while he's on the road that you can share, that people can leave this and be like, damn, that's crazy.
It's unbelievably a hard question to answer, because every day was a mission, like I was riding with Wyndham and Dango at one point. Another time it was like Braun and myself and, EC3 for part of it. And then, man, I remember having some funny times with Gotch, with Ellsworth. At certain times I like to mix it up and try to ride with different people. You might have to give me a category or something, because literally that was the mission.
How about a night out that went a little crazy?
All right. How can I skip this one down? We had a night after the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. And that was always the Super Bowl of partying for us, because I had a buddy at the time that was a GM there. So they used to comp us a whole bunch of rooms, but the presidential suite, which had like 4 bedrooms in it, the most unbelievable ballroom, a full bar and butler. But the best part was the elevator up to the room was actually backstage at the show. So we could go up and down even during the show if we need to, and take the whole crew up to the room and party and come back down, and no one notices that we were gone. So we used to throw some bangers up there. And I'm not going to say any talent names because it was pretty fun, I'll say. We went out one night and we went to this club called Shrine that's over at Foxwoods, and we got the party bus and we're doing the whole thing, and we took all the wrestlers. But I remember Criss Angel had the table next to us. I really want to say names here, but I can't. But it was almost very much like a Prince Dave Chappelle episode where like his aura, you could see it. There's the mist, and here comes this angel out of this puff of smoke, while the DJ's doing his thing. And he turned out to be a big wrestling fan, and the guys always imitated, but he saw us and he'd summon us over.
Yeah.
He's like, "You're Mojo Rawley. I'm a big fan of the hype thing." Damn it. I really want to say the other guys. I can't do it though. I just can't do it. It's okay. But that was as close. The stuff that makes the story good, I can't tell.
I know. Why not?
But we pretty much stole his entire party with him. His own people brought their bottles over to our tables. His whole crew came over to party with us. And yeah, man, we had a fun night partying with Criss Angel, who is the biggest wrestling fan on the low that I've ever met. He knew like everything, and he gets after it, bro. He was pretty nuts that night, so it was pretty funny. I don't know what else to say, bro. I usually have
say a lot
more details, but Might have to edit around all this stuff.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But I was hoping for something juicy, but maybe next time we'll figure it out. Thank you so much.
Call me on the phone. I'll tell you some stuff.
Oh, for sure. Now I kind of want to know some stories. I mean, there's other things I could ask you too. Like, did you ever have the opportunity to drink with the Undertaker? Did you ever party with Randy Orton? There's questions I can ask you, but you don't want to incriminate anybody. You get them in trouble. So
no, I mean, tour time with Randy was really cool. Getting to sit with him and chat with him, and actually. Tour gave you enough time to actually get to know people. You weren't just, running in from one show to the next and you got a match and all this stuff. No, it was like 3 weeks of us going city to city. There's no stress for the matches because we're running the same card for a week straight usually. The only time all year we would do that. You really, really got to know people on tour. I mean, my first tour was probably the best 3-week period of my life. I had so much fun. Places I'd never been. It literally combined every single thing in the world I loved at the time. So it was it was awesome. But yeah, there's been some cool stuff like that. I mean, again, sometimes the moments out of the ring far exceed the ones in the ring.
We'll have to talk about that when it's just you and I talking. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Go check out Paragon Talent. Make sure you are following Mojo all over social media. Stay hyped. Keep an eye out for TMZ Sports. And everyone keep doing the thing. Is there anything else you want to say to the wrestling fans before we wrap this up?
Check out that Wrestlers Combine next week. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Again, 7:45 p.m. Eastern, live and free on Chris Van Vliet's YouTube channel. We got matches. We got real shoot events, finding out who's going to be the strongest and the fastest pro wrestler in the game. So tune in. It's going to be really cool. I promise.
Yes. Check that out. And we'll see you all later.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.